with all of the greatness of Seattle. There's so much here. Why is that not? It's just unquestionable to me.
In this country, we have over 4,000 adult hospices. And here in Seattle, I was able to find over 30 animal hospices. I always have to apologize to my 17-year-old cat for that, because as much as I love him, I love my grandchildren even more. And there's nothing here for them. I can reach out and I can get somebody to come to my home or offer me bereavement support if my cat dies, but that same thing is not available in the community. There's not a place for me to go. I cannot do this alone. I need the community. This isn't my project, and this isn't Ladybug House's project. This is our project. We as a community can make this happen. My dream is that Ladybug House will be a home in the community, a home away from home, adding that extra layer of support, bridging the gap between home and hospital when somebody is sick. The dream is to have a large house with 12 family suites where at least 6 family members can stay together. A kennel in the back, a chef coming in and preparing favorite meals, a place where mom and dad can sleep in knowing that their children are going to be cared for, a place where somebody's playing all those board games with the siblings, making them feel extra special. Ladybug House will be that home away from home. I hope you can help make it a reality.
Knowing that our kid is still surrounded with love and with community and with people that care about her and us. And I think the biggest thing is that it just feels like it's a home and not a hospital or a hospice. It feels like family.
Yeah, Mom.
Hey, thanks.
Stand in the picture.
That's real. That's real right there.
Okay, come here. Kid. Yeah. Come here.
Yeah, Mom.
Thanks. Do you want to hold your baby?
No.
No?
Yeah, I want you to put this blanket
Well,
on.
let's have you hold your baby so they can see.
Having support is what you need. You know, we've been thankful enough to have so many friends and family that have been there for us, but you know, people that don't have it, it's really hard, and not having support and not having somebody there to talk to is some of the hardest stuff to get through. So my biggest thing is make sure you talk to somebody, find someone who understands, another mom who's been through what you went through, or a place like Ladybug House and where you can get counseling or get help after the fact. You know, somebody there that's there to support you and help you through your journey. I mean, all throughout our daughter's journey, we've had such a remarkable community stand behind us that even like when she was taking her last breaths, we talked about all the lives she changed, how many people she changed, and how much joy she brought to the world. All the fun things we had done in her life, and having all those people stand behind us is probably one of the best things that could have ever happened to us. I mean, literally support is the best thing that we could have ever asked for. When you're confronted with illnesses with your kids, you're just, all these families you just instantly click with, you know, and for us being so close to each other and living so close to each other, like that connection was even stronger because, you know, we could be there for all the hard moments and we can help each other out when, you know, like if there's not a doctor there to talk to, we can talk to each other and come up with our own diagnosis for our kid and treat them ourselves. And so we, you know, being close to each other's been a huge thing. But yeah, definitely cookies and chocolate, that's helpful.
And I think the kids, so we have younger kids that go to the same school, and like and our husbands have became like really good friends. Like it's not even just us, it's been like basically if we plan something, we don't plan it without the other family now. It's like it's just like one big family. Like we cook a lot while the husbands are at work. We eat like meals together and basically plan our life together now.
That to me is something, it would be a dream come true. And I say that because living in a house where you have this is so ideal, where you can be like, I can't cook tonight, I just got done with chemo, can you make something for my family? And you'll have a meal made when you get home, or you'll have the support when you had a rough day at clinic, and you'll be able to come back and be like, my kid was screaming the whole time, and that parent sitting across from you will just understand and get exactly where you came from. Like, that's huge. Not only just having the nursing support and the staff support, but having the family support that comes with it, and being able to have your whole family there. And that's a huge thing for, families like us that go through this. It's really hard. It's extremely hard, and you need that community. You need help.
Our biggest problem right now we have in the United States is that we don't have a huge pediatric hospice program. We have a lot of kids at the hospital who need care, that don't need immediate or urgent hospital care, who can't get hospice care where they live, because we see kids from Alaska, from Idaho, from Montana, and these are kids who live in rural areas where there's, they don't need to be in the hospital, and they don't need, let's say, hospital care, but they are too sick to go home. And so these kids need to be cared for, and families end up having to take the burden of caring for these kids. And so Suzanne and I have seen a lot of kids die in the hospital when they shouldn't have had to die in the hospital, but they couldn't go anyplace else, or the parents couldn't care for them. And the house that Suzanne wants to build to have a home for these kids to take temporarily, either while they're recouping or as they're passing, is amazing. And she's, had this thought for, I've known Suzanne for 22 years, so for as long as I can remember, we've talked about, we're missing something in the United States. Basically, she was told that there was nothing else they could do to stop this tumor. Brain tumors are notorious for that. So she was total care. She got sick, we were taking care of infections, we were taking care of all kinds of stuff for her that she needed to be in the hospital for. So as we got her better, and she started to get better, at least infection, and there was no more chemotherapy we could give her, but we got her to a point where she was as good as she was going to be. The problem was, we had to then, how do we take care of her? We wanted to send her home. She can't go home because her parents can't care for her by herself. She was total care. She had 3 small siblings under the age of 5. Taking care of her was a full-time job. You had to make sure that she was changed. You had to make sure she was getting her feeds. You had to, turn her every 2 hours to keep her from getting bed sores. Basically, there was no hospice care that could care for her in North Pole, Alaska. The hospital would not take her because she was too healthy to be in the hospital. So when we were trying to figure out how to get her out of the hospital, there was no, in the meantime, before she passed, there was no place for her. So the family, we finally had to work that she was actually we got her well enough, we were going to send her to a nursing home, because there was nothing in the United States that could take her temporarily till she finally passed. I mean, we didn't know, was it going to be 6 days? Was it going to be 6 months? Was it going to be a year? We knew eventually she was going to pass because the brain tumor was continuing to grow. But, we couldn't send her to the Ronald McDonald House because there was no place to give hospice care there. They don't allow hospice care at the Ronald McDonald House where the family was staying. In the meantime, Dad stayed with Delilah in the room. Mom stayed with the 3 siblings at the Ronald McDonald. And they were like that for 6-7 months, back and forth. Their family split apart. When they finally got to the point where they could take her home, like I said, the only place that was left for her was a nursing home. She was going to have to transport to a nursing home, an adult nursing home, for then somebody from Alaska Medicaid to evaluate her and then see if they could give the mom the equipment and the funding she needed to care for her at home, because there was nothing for her until she passed. So unfortunately, the little girl passed away in the hospital. But she didn't get to see her home. She didn't get to live a life with her siblings around her. They would come for a few hours every day, but a hospital is no place for siblings. And one little bitty room is no place for them. If we had had the Ladybug house built, Delilah could have gone to the Ladybug house. The parents were willing to give up Dad had given up his job. Mom didn't have a job. They were relying on medical assistance to survive. But we could have taken them at the Ladybug house. The kids could have played. They could have made meals together. The things that this family could have done before Delilah passed away would have been amazing. And her siblings would have remembered her in a home, not in a hospital. And we were just a little too late for her. And we see this happen over and over again. Families that have to have their children pass away in the hospital, away from, homemade meal, away from their dog that loves them. And it's not right. I mean, we have great hospice. We have some hospice for kids. But honestly, I can tell you, I wouldn't want my child to pass away at home. And remember, and I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 25 years. And unless my child looked me in the eye and said, Mom, I wanted to be home, I don't think I could have them pass away in my house and then walk past that room again. And so to have a place where my child could pass away, or have a place where I could rest and not care for my child 24/7, and that my kids could, hang out and play and be with their sibling that's chronically ill, would be amazing. And that's all Suzanne wants, is one place, one house, so that these families can get a break. I mean, things would have been so different. The memories that Delilah's siblings have would be so different if Ladybug House was built. And now all they remember is the hospital. All they remember is the last 7 months where their parents were split apart. That's all they'll remember. And that's just not right.
Ladybug House is proposing a concept that really isn't available out there for families with kids who have cancer and they're not ill enough to be in the hospital, but there's really not a place for them to go. I took care of a kid. He was young. He was maybe third grade. He was third grade, and I was working night shift, and because they had other kids and whatnot, no one stayed with him during the night, and so he was alone by himself. And I remember one night I had walked in his room to just check on him, and he was curled up on the floor, and he had wet the bed, and there was no one there to help him get fresh sheets or whatnot. So I don't know how long he'd been on the floor. Because he didn't call, and he was by himself. And at a place like Ladybug, families could be there and they could be present, and he wouldn't be curled up on the floor.
The thing about cancer, maybe go up to someone and you tell them about the palliative care house, but it feels foreign. It feels like, well, that's not my experience, that's not my life. But the thing of it is in May of 2010, this wasn't my life either. And there was one day when it became my life. It was July 1st, and I was in Germany. And on June, sorry, this is crazy. Please edit this out. What's the month before July? June. Damn it. May? Oh, God, this is really embarrassing. Anyway, so on May 31st, cancer wasn't my experience. The need for a palliative care home for people wasn't my experience. But it can become your life in an instant. And there's a moment when you're sitting in the room with the doctor and he hasn't told you have cancer yet. And then he does, and then everything changes. And it might not, a palliative care home for the Seattle area might not feel like something that applies to you. But there's nothing that says that it won't necessarily someday apply to you. And it's horrible and it's terrible, but a place like Ladybug House would make it so much better. And if it's not your kid and it's not your brother and it's not your sister, it's somebody else's brother or sister, somebody else's son or daughter. And you know, you would want, if it was your family, you would stop at nothing to help them. You would do whatever it takes. Getting people to act on something that they don't have, like something so massive and difficult and straining and heartbreaking as pediatric cancer, getting someone to act on that and even think about it is really tough.
Such an intense battle those first 9 months, very intense. We were at the hospital sometimes 5 days out of the week, and it was really hard for Dad to work. And so between not having employment and not having a home, we were almost in a homeless shelter. I don't know how a parent can process that and go through knowing that they have this limited amount of time, sometimes only a month, you know, and they have just that little amount of time, and they have to worry about rent, babysitters, daycare, working, you know, and I don't think that's fair. Parents should, in that situation, be able to be with their kids and just be. And to have somebody there taking care of all of that background noise and stuff, godsend, like, and it's just missing. There's nothing there. And I know that there are so many families that could benefit from that. And I hope that I never have to be in that situation, but I don't know that. And nobody knows that. And any parent, any person deserves to be with their loved ones in their final time. You know, stories where they're not even allowed to take them home, and maybe they just want to be at home with them in a comfortable place, not somewhere where people are running in and out of your room all night long, and you know, you're sleeping on this uncomfortable, either snuggled in bed with your kid, or you're on this uncomfortable little fold-out couch thing, and that's not quality of life, you know. And in those last days, if they need that care, I feel like having that care in a home type of setting, something more homey and comfortable, not a hospital, not a clinic, just something where you could be a family and feel like a family and not like, oh, we're in this weird place.